Yeah, now some final words about Henriette post-war life, Henriette von Schirach. After the end of Second World War, Henriette von Schirach's fate changed fundamentally. As I said, her husband, Baldur von Schirach, former leader of the Hitler Jews and later the Gauleiter of Vienna, was sentenced at the Nuremberg Trials for the deportation of more 65,000 Viennese Jews. He was held responsible. In 1946, he was transferred to the prison of Berlin Spandau, and there he served a sentence 20 years of prison. He was there together incarcerated alongside Albert Speer and Rudolf Hess. Together with Albert Speer, he was freed after 20 years of prison, and Rudolf Hess remained later until the end of his life in the prison alone. Yeah. At the same time, Henriette experienced social and material collapse after the war. Like many former wives of the Nazi elite, she lived as a stigmatized person under state surveillance and initially struggled in isolation and under difficult circumstances, so also financially problems. She had also problems to support financially her children. Yes, and that is a thing that she could not tolerate. She wrote to her husband in the prison, Baldur von Schirach, who wanted to maintain the relationship. Yeah, 20 years in prison, it's not really a short time, like wait for me 20 years. But she said to him, you are guilty for all that, and now I'm alone with the children now here, and I have no money. So what should I do? I cannot wait for you. So the marriage finally deteriorated. Yeah, like a lot of prison marriage, we see it in the films where the wives have new partners. Although her husband attempted to maintain the relationship, so Baldur von Schirach was quite interested to maintain. He wrote letters and tried, but Henriette von Schirach decided not to wait, and we can maybe also, we can also understand it. To wait 20 years for a young lady, it's not easy. And she officially divorced him in 1950. This decision marked not only a legal but also a moral boundary. The woman who had once lived in Hitler's immediate proximity now consciously distance herself from the Nazi past, distance herself also from the husband who was part of the inner circle and responsible for the deportation of the Jews. Even though on the level of conscience, she was never able to sever ties completely. From the mid of 1950s onward, Henriette attempted to rebuild her life as a writer and memoirist. Like everybody after world, not everybody, it's not true, but a lot of them were memoirists. There were also some who were silent, who were really silent. She was not one of them. Her first book, Der Preis der Herrlichkeit, 1956, The Price of Glory, portrayed her husband as an idealistic man swept away by history. Yeah, so he is idealistic. He's the artist, he's the intellectual, having only good ideas, and then there came the history, and the history swept him away. Hitler too was partially exculpated, described as a sociable Austrian who wanted to make himself and others happy. Yeah, that's an interesting statement. So we see also with Hitler, she had a profound relationship. Also, also we spoke about the incident at the Berghof, where she criticized Hitler openly. But on the other hand, she never gave up the feelings because she knew him from childhood, like the good old Uncle Adolf. Yeah, then she wrote later books like Anekdoten Hitler 1980, short anecdotal portraits of Hitler, mostly nostalgic tone. Frauen Hitler 1983, a presentation of the woman around the Führer. Yeah, all these books were written in a similar self-justifying manner, register. So the Führer is at the end like a guy who is quite sociable. He's like a gentleman and so on. The events of the past were presented in this book as a series of anecdotes with her own responsibility often blurred, depicting herself more as an observer than as a participant. Historians regard these works as a typical example of post-war German self-exculpatory narrative, like to excuse, yeah, yeah, I'm not guilty. That's the narrative. It's the history, the bad history. Former adherents reinterpreted their roles as those of innocent witnesses. So I'm only a witness. I'm a witness. I'm a bystander. While unconsciously deflecting the question of real complicity. So real complicity was not taking place. From the 1960s onward, Henriette lived reclusively in Munich. During periods of public debate about the Nazi past, she occurs in the new post-war German society. She occasionally spoke to the press, but consistently maintained a defensive stance that portrayed her own fate as that of a victim of circumstance. Yeah, that's the classical. I'm a victim of circumstance. My husband, Baldur von Schirach, he's a victim of circumstances. But on the other hand, he's a gentleman. She did not resume contact with her husband after his release, although she did not publicly attack him. Until the end of her life, she remained a deeply ambivalent figure. At once a witness to the intimate world of power, and that is really true, she was a witness of the real intimate world, of the private world of the Führer. And we saw also the repression of guilt. She died in Munich in 1992 at the age of 79. With her death, not only did a witness to an era pass away, but also a female life shaped by the triangle of loyalty, guilt, and self-exculpation. The story of Henriette von Schirach thus became one of the emblematic figures of the moral drama, also of post-war Nazi Germany. Yeah, of post-war Germany. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, my friends. That's all for today.